This is a Film Stories original podcast.
Hello everybody and welcome to the third episode of Writers on Cannes. I'm delighted to be joined today by M. Sellers Johnson. Thanks for joining me on the podcast.
Yeah, pleasure to be here, overlooking the Riviera and musing over recent films seen in late mornings and late evenings.
In fact, and we're going to talk about a film I saw last night and I think you saw this morning, which is Wes Anderson's latest, The Phoenician Scheme. This is a film that has come on the heels of Asteroid City, which also saw at Cannes. Wes Anderson, of course, is a huge Francophile, owns his own Paris apartment, spends several months a year here, and he's a kind of European presence and a darling of the festival, I would say. But let's get back to the film, which stars Benicio del Toro as Zaza, Zaza Corda,
yeah.
a businessman and entrepreneur who has a very shady reputation. They call him Mr. 5% in various ventures, including arms dealing. And this is a kind of yarn about how he is trying to fund a huge project which he considers his life's work. So that's and he has a daughter who is a novice nun and is preparing to enter the nunnery, who he wants to place as his heir above his 9 younger sons, it should be said. And so their relationship is also part of the film, a central part of the film. So, Sellers, what did you think of the movie?
I quite enjoyed it. I had some friends who had more of a muted response seeing it late yesterday evening, but I think you sort of have a mind mush after taking a lot of different film and content here. So I was happy to see it with fresh eyes this morning. Didn't have too many preconceptions of it. I've been typically more skeptical of Wes's recent fare, especially after the Grand Budapest, as many others have. He's sort of foraying into maybe more, not experimental films, but experimental practice. Larger ensembles become a bit nebulous and kind of lose the heart of the story. This is not the case for Phoenician Scheme. I found it to be quite humorous, at times decently moving. It does something quite interesting in which it's simultaneously slow building in its narrative while also being action oriented. And through the action, it's very humorous, I would say. You mentioned the sort of squabble between Benicio's character and Benedict Cumberbatch's character near the end of the film, being an exceptional point of humor. And I think it finds a decent balance, which has been lost in recent works like Asteroid City, French Dispatch, and even Isle of Dogs. I'm a fan of all of his works in general, particularly keen of the sort of the mid-career fare, Darjeeling Limited and Moonrise Kingdom and such. But I really quite enjoyed it. I thought it had some strengths and character building that were lacking in his previous films.
Yeah, we should say that Mia Freepleton plays the
daughter. Yeah,
and she's very good, I thought.
She is. She's It's interesting. We have so many, as you say, like nepo baby actors, and I believe she's the daughter of Kate Winslet, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
But she is certainly great in the film, and would augur a promising career, I would say.
I think there are certain actors who fit into Wes Anderson's sort of world, and she seems to be effortlessly placed in that.
Yeah, and even characters such as Michael Cera, who I must say I was very skeptical of once I realized his casting, and especially so since he's sort of placed in the central trio of characters of the film.
Yeah, he's sort of the third wheel who sort of gradually falls in love with Zaza's daughter.
But he was quite good too. He ends up sort of having a different strand of personality, I should say. I'll just leave it at that. But he was surprisingly good in the film.
He's not my favorite actor, although I kind of liked him in the original Arrested Development series, and I think he's fine in something like Juno. But I really didn't like him in Edgar Wright's film
Scott Pilgrim.
Scott Pilgrim, which I
Yeah.
felt, but that might not have been his fault. I didn't particularly like the film itself.
His character here almost has a vague callback to Youth in Revolt. If you've ever seen Youth in Revolt, where he sort of has a dual personality, to much better effect in this film.
Right.
Yeah, I think there was a lot to be admired about the Phoenician scheme. It's formally ornate and beautiful, as with his other films. He uses a different cinematographer in this. I think Robert Yeoman is replaced with another cinematographer whose name escapes me at the moment.
Yeah, I wonder. They have all such a similar look. I sort of wonder if that it's a little bit like Woody Allen goes through phases of different cinematographers, and I'm never quite aware of what the differences might be. I don't feel that his films have, from one film to the next, have a particularly different look.
Yeah, whereas there's more continuity in Anderson's work, and a lot of that owes to Adam Stockhausen as his production designer.
That's exactly it. He's more of a director who seems to be if he changed production designer, then things might radically change.
Certainly so.
But I mean, going on from that, I feel that a lot of the critical backlash towards him, or not necessarily backlash, because it's been a while since there has been a growing assessment of Wes Anderson as someone who makes, he's made his film again. He makes that same film
he does.
Over and over again. And I've sort of flipped on him because I think I had that feeling at the beginning as well, that after Rushmore, after Royal Tenenbaums, I trailed off a little bit, exactly at the point that he was making things like Darjeeling Limited and The Life Aquatic of Steve Zissou. Now I'm sort of back on the Anderson train because I feel he just is someone who has got his own vision, his own furrow that he's ploughing, and good luck to him. It's not he's making no bones about breaking new ground.
No, and to that sentiment too, I should say that although I mentioned having sort of a lukewarm response to more of his recent movies, last three, I would say, Phoenician Scheme in some way makes me appreciate those films that I once had more of a lukewarm reception to. I think I feel myself opening up to more of the works that I maybe was less enthusiastic about. And in contrast, the ones you mentioned of Zissou, Darjeeling, I think we're all pretty in agreement on Tenenbaums as being an exceptional Anderson film. But the mid-tier stuff, that's some of my favorites. And I think that's where he excels in having an ensemble, but a tighter ensemble, where there's a more clear expression of heart.
I think one of the recurring characters in Wes Anderson movies is the scoundrel. And the sort of Royal Tenenbaum himself, played by Gene Hackman, is the archetype and the apex scoundrel. In that he has that line with Donald Glover where he says, I don't want you to think of me as an asshole, and Donald Glover says, no, I just think you're a son of a bitch. And he's like, oh, I'm happy with that. I'd rather be that.
And it's that patriarchal figure. Zaza is the patriarchal scoundrel, as is Royal Tenenbaum.
Yeah, to some degree, a really good variation on that, I would argue, would be Ray Fiennes in Grand Budapest Hotel.
Agreed.
Where it's played in a different key. It's much smoother. But at the same time, he's the core of that film. And I think films that have failed are films that have not had that, which is an odd criticism that Wes Anderson should repeat himself more. But The Life Aquatic of Steve Zissou, I felt Bill Murray didn't really shine in the central role.
It's a shakier film. It's sort of it'll grab some and isolate others. I'm in favor of it pretty strongly, but also a scoundrel father figure.
Sure, absolutely. And of course, like the Darjeeling Limited, in which the father has died, and so there is no
absent. You see the effects of his death on the family and his lack of central. I don't know.
Yeah, it's kind of like a structuring absence.
Structuring absence, exactly.
Another film that we have both seen, and I think it would be worth talking about briefly, is Chronology of Water.
Mm.
This is a debut film directed by Kristen Stewart. It had a premiere here with the director in the room, along with her star, Imogen Poots. It's based on a true story, a memoir written by a writer, and I'm going to garble the last name.
Her name is Lydia Yuknovich.
Excellent, well done. Who had revealed in this memoir that she was a victim, a survivor of child sex abuse, and had long issues with addiction issues with various drugs and alcohol. And it, well, yeah, over to you. Tell us, what did you?
I saw this later in the afternoon yesterday, where I was admittedly kind of dozing off here, but not as a criticism of the film, just as an effect of seeing many screenings one after another. This will be a very controversial and divisive film. I'll be curious to see how it picks up distribution, who leans into that. But I found it to be probably the most provocative and stirring film that I've seen of the festival. In a lot of ways, it'll bear some resemblance to Lynn Ramsey's Die My Love. They both sort of deal with these women who are in states of psychosis and having sort of these expressions of primal urge that are visceral, that are corporeal. You know, there's fascination with semen, with blood, with tears. Sort of the Chronology of Water has an obvious presence of water, but I think that that comes across in both ways, at least in terms of corporeal liquids. But
yeah, they are sort of taboo pushing. That's a very interesting point. It's something I saw more in Chronology of Water, but you're absolutely right that To Die For also has that images of sort of female figure and physicality, which is very much coming from a woman's point of view. Both these films obviously directed and written by women, and that idea of and with female power behind the camera. Jennifer Lawrence is a producer on Die My Love, and Kristen Stewart obviously calling the shots. Although, also it must be said, Kristen Stewart, you know, we often look at these projects and we say something like, oh, well, it must be easy to get film made. It took a good 5 or 6 years, I think, to get this off the ground.
I remember her mentioning this, I believe at the premiere of Love Me at Sundance a couple years ago. She was sort of hoping to divert her attention away from acting projects and getting this up and running. This adaptation of Lydia's memoir. I mean, the film is it bears some resemblance to, also not in terms of its themes, but just in terms of its aesthetic design. It's very montage heavy. There's intensified continuity that some people will likely relate to maybe some of the late works of Terrence Malick, although they're not pastoral in the sense of Terrence Malick's work. It almost reminds me a bit more of
Night of Cups.
I actually mentioned that in my write-up too.
Right. Yeah. And Imogen Poots, who plays the lead character,
of course,
is also in Night of Cups as the first sort of love experience which Christian Bale has.
Yeah, but here it's far more abrasive and incisive. I mean, it's extremely disorienting, and the montage framework kind of softens in the middle parts of the film, which is I think it's good, because enduring 2 hours of that can be quite taxing, as provocative and enticing as all of that is. But yes, go on.
No, I was going to say that I saw this in the night viewing, and with the director present, and it was a very felt like a very intense film. And of course, as we've already intimated, as Cannes goes on and the days and films pile up, it becomes more and more difficult to keep your concentration.
Absolutely.
Just you physically are becoming a little bit of a wreck. And I found this film almost impossible to sort of close my eyes or rest or anything like that, because it was just so demanding. And the sound design, and here again is where it connects to Die My Love. Sound design was really I was going to say in your face, in your ears. I mean, it was constantly slapping and clapping and thudding and
there's an amplified diegetic sound for sure.
Exactly, it was all happening really, really loudly and not. It's an uncomfortable watch, you know. It's at times unpleasant, but kind of justified because of the subject matter. I don't think it is a watch it's not a movie that could at any moment seems to relax.
No. There was a certain intrigue with Chronology of Water too. I mean, you have multiple screenings beyond the debut, screenings that happen in parallel simultaneously with the debuts in terms of the theaters that are at the Palais. But Chronology had fewer screenings than Die My Love, so there was sort of a limited chance to catch this at the festival.
That I think will be because Chronology of Water is in Southern Gare. And Die My Love is in competition. I think that will be the main reason. Sometimes it's even worse for out of competition. Spike Lee is here tomorrow with a new film, which might even be showing in the gala tonight. And there are 2 screenings at the gala and at the Brunel. And maybe there might be a later screening off in another part of the town somewhere.
Yeah. And I should say, also bring up an interesting parallel to where this conversation started. I had a choice between Phoenician Scheme and Chronology of Water last night.
Right.
I ultimately chose Chronology. Very happy that I did. Just not knowing when I would get a chance to experience that or take a look. And then was luckily able to snap a ticket from a friend this morning to see Phoenician. So I was very happy with that choice. I mean, they're obviously very different films to discuss together, but I think Chronology will prove off-putting to a large audience. But I think there's something there, and because you have this essentially this dissonant art film, and to Die My Love is the same as that. But for Chronology, there's something more grounded there. There's something. I don't know.
I think that groundedness comes across very much in Imogen Poots' performance, which I would agree is really good. It's really compelling. She takes a character who, to some degree, is not necessarily the most sympathetic. She treats people around her badly.
Sure, as she was treated badly.
Exactly, and as is to some degree comprehensible, at the same time it's not being necessarily justifiable or nice to be around.
No. The
same thing is true of Jennifer Lawrence in Die My Love, where she is, people who excuse the vulgar expression, but if you're shat on all your life, you tend to stink to shit after a while. So that is true of both those films. You don't behave well if you haven't been behaved well to. Absolutely. I wanted to bring up one final point for Chronology of Water, which is I had a very strange experience while I was viewing it. It was because I had a friend when I was studying in Liverpool who one part of the film is that she goes to a writing program in the University of Oregon run by Ken Kesey, the novelist who wrote Sometimes a Great Notion and One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. And he plays a real role as a mentor for Lydia and to encourage her and promote her and to become a proper mentor, even a sort of advisor. And I recognized that, wait a minute, this is where a friend of mine, Bennett Huffman, who I used to do poetry gigs with, and we published a poetry book together, he was part of this program. And sure enough, in the film, there is a line, Bennett, get the Quaaludes. And I thought, oh my God.
I remember that. Yeah. This guy keeps falling over.
Exactly. That's my
the
friend.
Circle of Writers. Wow.
That's my friend, Bennett Huffman. So, unfortunately, that friend of mine is no longer with us. And I sent his widow a message straight after the screening. And she said, oh, I'm so glad you went to see that film. Bennett and Lydia were very close. And in fact, Chronology of Water is dedicated to Bennett Huffman.
Really?
Yeah. Wow. So it was one of those moments where my critical and sort of distance collapsed in a trice as soon as I sort of saw that as a story which was about people my age going through difficulties, which I would not compare to my own, but certainly we all fight our battles. Not compared to my friends necessarily, but there were battles that he fought too, and so it kind of stood for a generational moment as well, and I really, it really moved me very deeply, that. And I know I'm not going to recommend it on that basis, because of course that's a very personal thing, but I also think it's really interesting to sometimes have that personal connection to a film that you hitherto was unsuspected.
This happens in the center of the film too, I believe, sort of near the middle too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Grounded further by a interestingly positive and adept performance from Jim Belushi.
And totally unrecognizable.
So strange, but what a great choice.
I thought he was wonderful. When he turned up, I was thinking, who is this brilliant character actor? Surely I've seen him somewhere before. And it was Jim Belushi.
Jim Belushi.
Unbelievable. Well, listen, fellas, thank you so much for joining me.
Absolutely.
That was an absolute pleasure.
Pleasure to talk to you, John.
And enjoy the rest of Cannes.
As do you.